Masterminds behind last week's riots could face constitutional crimes of terrorism, sedition and treason. The National Prosecuting Authority says it will not hesitate to act severely against those who encourage the damaging and looting of shopping malls. The Justice Cluster has been briefing Parliament today on its plans to deal with almost 2,000 people already behind bars. Lindsay Detlinger has been following these discussions for us, joining us now here on the Midday View. Lindsay, good afternoon. I mean, we know treason, terrorism, sedition are very, very serious crimes. How is the NPA planning to prosecute so many people under these serious crimes?
Well, Dan, there are a host of challenges facing the NPA, least of which over 120 NPA staff either infected or affected by COVID-19 right now, even having lost a prosecutor this week. But they are needing to deal with, as you point out, over 1,900 people now behind bars, over 800 or so cases already enrolled and before them. And they are now needing to categorize those cases. From those very serious ones, they say they will not be influenced by any politics in this matter in prosecuting those involved in the events of last week. That case you've just referred to, reported on by Govan Whittles, brings to 5 the number of what they deem to be serious cases involved in last week's riots, and not ruling out that those behind these attacks could really face those very serious crimes that you have mentioned, but also pointing out to Parliament today that there is also an aspect of organised crime, people who are known to be crime syndicates who were involved in last week's looting could face charges of racketeering. As we know, there are severe penalties for those who are charged with such crimes. And then, of course, there are those who, if I can say, merely looted, and then also those who are found in possession of stolen goods. So a whole range of different crimes that differ in their severity and the penalties they could face. And so while on the one hand they're saying we cannot rule out that some might face those very serious crimes of terrorism, of sedition, of even treason, there are many of those, Dan, that will just get away with a slap on the wrist, as it were. Restorative justice will really play a key role here in dealing with those involved in the looting, because really the prisons cannot withstand the number of the influx of inmates just in terms of remand detainees. So you can imagine that they wouldn't want to put everybody behind bars who was caught maybe with a TV or a microwave, and so they will look at other forms of restorative justice, admission of guilt fines, for example, and diversion of sentences, and looking at other ways to punish those who were involved in last week's crimes other than placing them behind bars.
Yeah, and we know that the prisons currently are buckling under pressure in terms of numbers. Now you are adding this so many remand detainees. I wonder how Correctional Services says it's coping.
Well, the short answer to that, Dan, is they're not coping. They have just been briefing Parliament's Justice Committee of what it has meant to have, as of yesterday's count, more than 1,900 remand detainees behind bars between Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. The Gauteng prisons obviously dealing with the bulk of that number, but it's having all kinds of impacts on them, Dan. As we know, during this pandemic, correctional services have been looking to empty the prisons as much as they can of prisoners who are not facing maybe such severe crimes, and now they're having to deal with almost 2,000 more people in their prisons. They say that this is firstly having an impact on how they manage COVID-19 in prisons. They are having to segregate these new remand detainees to make sure that they are not infected before they are integrated with the general general prison populace. And then there are also issues, budgetary issues, Dan. We've been hearing that they will all have to be issued a uniform. There are extra pressures on the budget to feed them all. And then, of course, in terms of what we've just been talking about, prosecuting them, how the NPA and correctional services will go about ensuring that they have fair access to justice, and using systems currently in place at many prisons for remote court proceedings to take place. So we do not have a situation where they are having to travel to the courts, which are also already not operating optimally and sitting for the standard number of hours per day because of the pandemic. So a whole host of issues between the NPA and correctional services having to now deal with this unplanned influx of detainees purely linked to the events of last week.
Thank you very much for the comprehensive update. Lindsay Detlinger there from Parliament in Cape Town. Well,